you get it?
Oh, no. That would require me actually being open on my email.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's all good.
Y'all have timers and stuff. Can you do your prep and okay. Sweet.
This room is so dark.
Yeah, this building's so far away.
It's only dark up here.
There might be a light switch. If y'all really need one from timers.
I mean, I'm good.
I'm too lazy to find out.
I feel it.
I'm ready whenever you all are.
Alright. So many
Give me 1 second yet to open this.
No problem. Is it warmer here or colder than in Western?
I'm Chico.
Oh, I see. Cooler or warmer here?
Honestly, about the same right now.
Okay. I was like, Chico's probably warmer than here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, slightly actually, only slightly.
Let's see. Nice. It's been absurdly warm.
Yes, really has.
Irritating.
Except when I went to it's cold.
I don't like
Sorry, I'm done.
being in Florida. Did you get it?
Yeah, we're good.
Cool. Alright, let's do this.
Cool.
Subpoint 1 is the largest school of the Americas, is still exporting death squads, wanting 15. School of the Americas is responsible for training over 64,000 South Americans, soldiers in the Kingdom, notorious territories, murders, and death squads. So was the biggest base for destabilization in Latin America, is still relocated to Fort Benning, Georgia, renamed Winsec in 2001, allowing for impairment termination of the previous program to dissociation in reality. However, Winsec retained the sole foundation U.S. Department of Education and Institute for Criticism of regarding schools' historical rights and human rights violations. Since 2000, renamed the SO other crimes with the SO graduates have come to light after 25 graduates in 2001 to 2003. 12 have been charged with serious crime of humanity. Units whose members reportedly committed multiple extrajudicial killings. The dissociation from the school's history and religion and the SO's main reference to the institution of the atrocities committed by students and graduates. History, however, tells a different story. While Winston continues to emphasize but describes human rights beside mere 8 hours of instruction on the subject, researchers report on Colombia's extrajudicial killings reveals the reality goes beyond the cosmetic reforms employed by the institution. Subpoint 2 is the inherency Congress has drug their feet on the closure, and the FBI is actively investigating the anti-SO movement. McCoskey and Suster in 15. The American Civil Virginia released documents showing the Federal Bureau of Investigation initiated counterterrorism investigations, so watches human rights organization and coordinates anti-SO activities in it, and also increases surveillance and priority level often during the rapid growth of the movement. More frustrating for the movement is the cocktails of Congress continuing to women's congressional representatives to cut the school's funding and push activists to rethink their strategy, although they have not abandoned legislative efforts to close the school. Movement leaders are now taking their message directly to new generation Latin American and state requesting that officials no longer send soldiers to training facilities last Wednesday. Thus the plan text. The United States federal government, through an act of Congress, should permanently suspend operation of WINSEC and its training network and prohibit the reestablishment of any school in its place. Implementation enforcement are through the Secretary of the Army. Subpoint 3 is the solvency suspension. WINSEC closes it down for its future military education efforts to be governed. 13 suspend the authority of the Western Hemisphere Institute Security Cooperation and its successor institution, United States Army School of the Americas. The Secretary of the Army shall suspend operation of the Western Hemisphere Institute Security Cooperation. The authority of the Secretary of Defense Operating Education Training Facility Section 2166 of the United States Code is suspended. No training or education facility may be established in the Department of Defense with Latin American military personnel, successor to the United States Army School of the Americas, Western Hemisphere Institute Security Cooperation. Subpoint 4 is Southern Command's role includes training of regional military leaders in 16 to enhance professional development of the region's military officers, senior enlisted U.S. Southern Command conducts facilitates international military education, training, military and defense exchanges, and security seminars. These programs are building accountable, transparent armed forces, ensure the sustainability of U.S. security cooperation investments and defense institutions like WINSEC. Subpoint 5 is that WINSEC rotates trainings between the school and Fort Benning and training facilities specifically located in Latin America. Stottle and 14. Troops on training missions have been rotated outside of Fort Benning training forces inside Honduras. How most students will come in droves to Fort Benning. This new model training provides on a heavy dose of in-country training of official military and security forces. This full reboot of skill of the Americas is deploys troops globally on training missions. Advantage 1 is U.S. imperialism. Subpoint 1 is closing. WINSEC forces the U.S. to recognize accountability for imperial operations in Latin America. McCoskey and Suster in 15. And what can circle closing institutions of the government's efforts to package U.S. imperialism domestic for consumption. The controversy represents a battle of collective memory. It's a struggle over how the legacy of the school of the Americas brought history to 20th century use individual Latin America understood the United States. The U.S. has not experienced a period of national soul searching about its involvement in the dirty wars. U.S. policymakers' concept of human rights and theoretical and legal frameworks associated with it apply less to the United States and others abroad. The controversy over the Solon's code and the WINSEC is struggle over beliefs about the intrinsic benevolence of the U.S. power and the strength of those beliefs remain unexamined except for the good. Subpoint 2 is the ethic of accountability is the only way to solve U.S. imperialism. Roy 06. How can this instrumentalist relationship between responsibility and power be challenged by formulated by suggest two ways, each with implication for philosophy and practice? The first to recast responsibility and accountability. I can formalize responsibility in ways all action undertaken responsible, call responsible, not involves only as responsible, but give an answer to, but the related situations where answers during two is being responsible for a name being answered for. Pedagogy, global responsibility counts. We articulate the duty to intervene must also assist on accountability on answering those who are the object of our responsibilities in time of empire is not enough to be responsible, is also necessary to be accountable. Point 3 is a schools claim that they have reformed the curriculum. The fact that the school remains open since the signal the U.S. condones abuses in the name of imperial imperialism, Koopman 08. The school continues to serve as a signal because of being taught to militaries who are likely to put the skills to horrific use. These most of the students from the army, which has on Paul record of killing, the school continues to train individuals who've already known human rights violations. There has been no accountability in the U.S. for the atrocities those who wrote and taught for these manuals face. No disciplinary actions with no acknowledgement by the Army of wrongdoing. The failure of the U.S. Army to hold anyone accountable since the signal in the military is a violation of human rights is acceptable. So, point 4 is that U.S. imperialism creates a violent global police state which normalizes endless cycles of racism and patriarchy that justify structural violence. Mahati and 60. U.S. imperial project calls for civilizing brown and black men and rescuing the women outside the border. The very same state engages in killing, imprisoning, criminalizing black and brown, now Muslim and Arab people within its own borders. The effect of these conjoined economic military policy, the U.S. imperial state represents an alarming increase of violence against women, children, communities bearing the burden of U.S. military dominance around the world. U.S. policies clearly target foreign immigrant communities. This clearly gendered, sexualized, and racialized cultural militarism surveillance is buttressed by a hegemonic culture of consumption and neoliberal conservatism. Some point 5 is the U.S. imperialism leaves warfare in everyday life and props up culturally hegemonic systems of domination. Only by focusing on the structural violence of these systems can we reorient the political away from great imperialism. Cuomo 96. The omnipresence of militarism justifies the destruction of natural communities during peacetime. Ethical purge and in which ways warfare woven into the fabric of life into Christ-based politics and analysis. Christ-based politics distracts us from the need for sustained resistance to a mesh systems of domination. Omnipresence of militarism amounts to false belief. The absence of declared on conflicts be particularly easy for those shaped by privilege. Resistance is immobilized and the real final occurs. That's why it's difficult not to respond to ways to make resistance drop on the political priorities. Christ is driven attention keeps resistance complacency and wars embedded and draws the attention to the fact that horrific violence is happening all over. So, point 6 is that before they question our method of working within the state to reform it, research proves compared to better. Grossberg 92. The left has to work against within the bureaucratic system of government. The most effective struggle was accomplished by mobilizing popular pressure government institutions with media and structure approach powers act for rules, not by directing opposition to specific institutions that power can be challenged. So, point 7 is that the state is the most influential actor in international politics. Individuals identified with the state won't accept that their actors. Curiam in 2000. The state must continue to serve as the indispensable actor because not the largest entity which people can identify themselves with continues to be the state. As far can be seen in this regard, there will be no change in this regard. Even in the case of private organizations, the state is the actor must create the new rules. They advocate areas such as human rights, humanitarian issues, and the environment. And sub-point 8 is that failure to engage with the state creates vacuums will be filled by violent elites. Cook in 92. Deconstruct without material burdens creates a political void in which the social group power deconstructs acceptance, dispower, dispossessed to is dying, dehumanized, and brutalized by violence, power, horror, sense amount of real general theoretical privileging. When vision and political struggle do not accompany critique, the void will be filled by the powerful. And with that, I'll go ahead and open myself up for cross-links.
Alright. Let's start off on your very first card. Do you have anything recent? Like, I know your card is from 2015, but all of the evidence that it's talking about is from 2001 to 2003.
I mean, if you want, I can reach more evidence out of the AR. I just think the Wadi card does a really great
Like,
job.
you don't have
explaining
anything
specifically
in the AC talking about current arms?
No, the Wadi evidence specifically indicates that I think when you look to, there's kind of two folds to this. One, I think you look at the Wadi evidence and says we're still training these individuals there and it's been the biggest base for
Okay, that's
destabilization.
fine. Can we move on?
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about plain text. You say that you're going to close the entire training network. What is that? Where is that?
Sure.
Who controls that?
Yeah, sure. So my Stottle evidence indicates that there's a training network of both. Basically, they rotate them from Fort Benning to training facilities inside places like Honduras. I would also.
So Sawtile is talking about like all kinds of bases and lily pads. So how does that relate to WINSEC?
So it specifically indicates that they use WINSEC as sort of the main training facility that then they rotate the trainees through.
What gives you the authority to close training bases that aren't under the control of Southern Command?
That's a topicality argument you can make. I would say that they are specifically under Southern Command, but two, I'd say I'm closing.
You don't have the evidence out of the AC that they're under the control of Southern Command?
The TID 2016 evidence specifically indicates that they
That
train those
WINSEC
leaders at
is
WINSEC.
doing training?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the other thing in your plaintext, which says that you prohibit the reestablishment. So are you essentially saying that I'm not allowed to have circumvention arguments?
What do you mean? I think durable fiat just in theory solves back for that.
Then why do you have to put prohibition?
Because that's a specific act of holding them accountable and reducing the role of Southern
Right,
Command
okay.
by
Let's
removing
talk
their
about
ability to have that role.
Let's talk about solvency. Why is one congressman saying that we should close WINSEC when we know most people in Congress are crazy mad?
Specifically one, I think that you can make, if you want to make a solvency advocate procedural or indict my solvency advocate, that's fine. I still think the bulk of the literature that I read out of the
So
1AC
I'm just
supports
wondering,
closing.
why is a congressperson the only person you could find saying we should close WINSEC?
It's definitely not. I just think McGovern summarizes it best.
Okay, let's
Well,
talk
that doesn't mean I
about
defend
the
everything
SOTILE
McGovern
evidence.
says.
So are you essentially saying you end all training in Latin America?
Pretty much.
Okay, what does pretty much mean?
If you want to maybe there's something I don't know about. I think the Stottle evidence would indicate that, yeah, we stop all
Isn't
training.
SOTILE talking about everything around the world?
No, Stottle is specifically talking about, he gives the warrant of specifically in Honduras, but it specifically indicates the training
Okay.
in Latin America. And I think the
Does
TID,
WINSEC train anyone outside of Latin America?
I think specifically in the context of the TID evidence, it's key that its main purpose is
So the
to
answer
do
is
it
yes,
inside.
but you don't
I mean, if you
type
want to
it
put
in.
words in my mouth, that's fine, or you can let me answer the question.
Okay, let's talk about your imperialism advantage. Where's your card saying you solve imperialism? Like,
Sure,
where's the exact
McCloskey and Susser 15 literally indicates that we,
Where does it say it?
I mean, literally you can read that it indicates that the struggle over closing the school forces policymakers to basically have like a come to Jesus moment that, hey, maybe this imperialism thing isn't so great.
Okay. I'm starting to need some prep right now. Okay, I used 2 minutes.
I got you too.
That's fine. I'm just gonna get this one. Oh wait, we have an email. Duh. Okay. Sorry.
That's all good.
God, that is so much easier.
Slowly catching on, Ellie.
We'll see if I remember where I saved this. That's the only thing I don't like. I normally just save things to my flash drive and then it's like really easy to delete. Or like find later. Order is 3 off in case.
3 off? Yeah.
Yeah, there is an implication on case with one of the off cases, so you can flow it on case.
Maybe just like signpost as a cross app, that'll make it really easy to follow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna hit it right before I hit case.
Okay.
So that's the goal anyways, so it should be pretty easy to get on case.
Okay. Sure. weird. It did go to my spam box.
I told you. Happens every time.
Good to know.
That's funny. All right.
So everyone's cool.
Yes. Okay.
First off is extropicality, A, interpretation, Latin America, Fairflex, free online dictionary access, 2016, Latin America, the countries of the Western Hemisphere, south of the United States, especially those speaking Spanish, Portuguese, or French. B, violation, WinSec satellite bases. Schools are located around the world, including in Africa. This proves the app expertise that operates outside the resolution subtitle in 2014. WinSec opening of a vast satellite campus system of military training in the U.S. increasingly trains around the world, from the Philippines to the Horn of Africa, across the continent to West Africa, and of course back in Central America. C, standards. 1, ground, extratropical action stack offense, which means they can either no link all of my offense or they can solve for all of my impacts. This kills negative debatability because it blows up ground for negative research. And 2, predictability. Additional training sets are innumerable, meaning we can never prep for all of them. The app will choose whatever one neg has least prep. And 3, justification. Additional action outside the scope of the resolution shows that the app is not solvent unless these other schools are also closed. And D, voters. 1, NFALD rule dictates. T is an A priori voting rule, and 2, competing interpretations. Vote for the answer that's best for debate. And next off, uniqueness. Military presence is no longer the imperial mechanism for control. Latin American movements are succeeding in pushing off the U.S. global capitalist coercion that replaced direct intervention. Hasso Aguilar, instructor of Watkin, Professor Emeritus, Monthly Review, July 2015. A world without an imperial order has become imaginable. Diverse struggles against the logic of capital, especially in Latin America, have moved beyond the historical patterns fostered by capitalism and imperialism. The military forces of the United States protected the emerging U.S. empire throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Latin American countries achieved political independence at various points in the past 200 years, but economic independence has proven more elusive. Neoliberal policies were first imposed under military rule in Chile and later were introduced by elected government in other Latin American countries. Latin America became an especially fertile ground for resistance against neoliberalism. Social movements in the region have unsettled governments, appropriated factories, expelled corporations, sought autonomy and self-determination, engaged in electoral struggles, and shared broad demands of social justice. Link. The assumption the U.S. is the principal agent of change in Latin America ensures subordination of regional bottom-up movements. This turns case. Emerson in 2010. The assumption that the United States is the principal agent of change in Latin America underplays the capacity of Latin American states to act independently of Washington. The practical consequence of this determinism is to entrench Latin American subordination, whereby U.S. economic and strategic military supremacy alone shape the policy options and preferences of Latin American states. The practical limitation of the emphasis on structural factors that both dependency theory and neorealism have difficulty acknowledging change originating from Latin American actors and internal link. Radicalization now is key. The successive movements in Latin America is key to challenging capitalist suppression. Katz in 2015. The dualities of the region are explained by the dynamic of uprisings that were defeated but also did not become triumphant. Anti-capitalist revolutions. The Apple governments can reach their progressive goals only if they radicalize. The key to this turn is found in the revolutionary transformation of the state. If this turn is delayed, the dominant will have time to destroy or neutralize the radical experiments. The more autonomous or dependent character of Latin America will be settled by the outcome. The dualities of the region cannot become permanent. Ultimately, they will tip the scales toward a stormy adaptation to capitalist suppression of a new development or socialism. Scenario 1 is unsustainable globalization. Impact. Growth in the global south without shift in human civilization leads to a replication of hegemonic oppression. This impact is internal colonialism, sub-imperialism, and transition war between the north and south. Helen Lincoln and faithful Westminster College in 2016. The aspirations of semi-peripheral emerging economies to catch up, clone, and compete with the West within the hegemonic terms of socially stratifying civilizational model requires internal colonialism, regional sub-imperialism, playing catch up with the north and its unsustainable mode of political economy to be as the present day rehearsal, and accelerate, compressed, and sub-imperial modes of the structurally violent practices that have underpinned the North's rise to planetary dominance. In striving to catch up, emerging economies are in economic, political, and military crash against the hegemonically entrenched northern core powers. They expire. And second scenario, warming. Impact. The failure of socialist movements guarantees extinction through climate change. Lee in 2010. Under the current trend, the world is on track towards long-term warming, devastating human civilization without fundamental social transformation. Human civilization is now on the path to self-destruction. Without an end of economic growth, it is impossible for meaningful climate stabilization to be achieved. Resolution and survival of require a fundamentally different social system that is based on social ownership and of the means of production and society-wide planning. And next off, the 1AC's contemporary framing of Latin American is extension of the colonial political project. Here are some examples. 1. The term and weight is a form of rhetorical indigenizing based on a Western conception of history that positions resources to be exploited and racialized bodies to be dominated. Shaw in 2006. The term Latin America bears the weight of long discounted colonial history of racial violence. Even in its contemporary application, modernity is conjoined to coloniality. Coloniality speaks to the West's ongoing epistemological force. Geopolitics continue to bleed place with race. These are politics. The politics which governs skewed distribution of wealth, knowledge, and power. To be Latin American was not white enough. The rhetorical indigenizing of Latin Americans extend colonialist logic and indigenized Latin America connoted exploitable resources, but also exploitable labor. The idea of Latin America as a racial charge produced and maintained by manipulative West discourse, which overtly attempts by Latin American to represent itself. Latin America is a widely successful political project that describes the reality it claims to describe through a manipulative association of race, place, and difference. And 2, coloniality cements imperial domination in the region. Hegemonic discourses are key to reshaping racial, political, and economic practices, which turns face and makes military presence irrelevant. McNola in 2006. Coloniality is the logic of domination. Modern technology has made it unnecessary to colonize in the old obvious manner. Still, the U.S. does in fact maintain military bases in South America. After 9/11, liberal voices called it reluctant or light imperialism. Imperialism implies colonialism, as it is difficult to manage any empire without colonies. Colonies take different shapes, disguised as necessary and just. In coloniality names the experience of the world of those barren called the wretched of the earth, those subject to the standards of modernity. And 3, vote negative to endorse a literary analysis of Latin America. Historical and linguistic scholarship breaks beyond traditional boundaries, providing continuously evolving contextual understanding of the region. Egan in 2004. Culture offers the most interesting angle on defining Latin America. Some of the strongest parallel processes in colonization have been in cultural development. The literary historians of the Spanish language have generally been very open about the geographical location. Literary scholars are at the forefront of the move to break down traditional political and linguistic boundaries. The move toward a comparative inter-American literature, desire to move away from traditional regional specializations. Inter-American literature attempts to engage specialists in a common discussion of literatures. And massive migration all over have made the linguistic definition of Latin America ever more problematic. Studies of literature demonstrate traditional political boundaries break down when one attempts to define both. And dismantling the language of domination creates bases of resistance to coloniality. Democracy can only be achieved when Eurocentric modes of thinking are supplanted with a socially just dialogue. Vogel in 2011. Exterior spaces are not pure or absolute, affected by European modernity, but never fully subsumed. It is from the geopolitics exteriority that critical decolonial thinking emerges as critique of modernity toward a world of diverse ethico-political projects in which real horizontal dialogue could exist between all people. To achieve this, it is fundamental to transform systems domination of the colonial power matrix. And on case. Turn, the affirmative state-centric approach on power hierarchies in Latin America creates conformity to atrocity, replicates the 1AC's impacts. Emerson in 2010. Neorealism and dependency theory establishes a global hierarchy that determines subternal subordination. Neorealism views outcomes as highly dependent on the distribution of capabilities. Dependency theory, adherence to the system ensures state conformity to the hierarchy of core and periphery, leaving the core destined to rule while the periphery is destined to be ruled. Limitation of the emphasis on structural factors that both have difficulty acknowledge change originating from Latin American actors. This stems from the failure to consider how the state as an agent can shape the internal system. And on solvency. You have no solvency. Your advocate never says anything about how it solves imperialism and is a random congressman with no real reason to trust him, and you don't give any warrants out of that. You have to provide that out of the AC. It's abusive to bring it up in the AR. And your card never explicitly says that this is going to be key to ending imperialism. Like, I understand your tag says that, but there is no clear articulation out of the AC that that's going to solve. And I can tell you what cards I did not read.
Yeah, and can you give me the disside you read? It wasn't in the file.
It's definitely in there. It's titled Emerson Scenario. I'm reading off the saved file that I have.
Okay, I had so the Emerson, the movements disside is the Emerson scenario?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I got super confused because it was below the one, it's the
Oh, it's because I
coloniality.
did it.
No worries. What cards, so yeah, tell me what cards you didn't read here.
The only cards I did not read are the case overview from Magnola
Okay.
and the Paris Kiva card.
What's that type? What's the tag on it?
Decolonial thinking requires challenging the generalist rhetoric from 1AC.
Cool. All right, ready to start cross?
Yeah, I'm just gonna take these out so I'm also not confused. But yeah, you're good.
All right. On the Emerson scenario or movements dissad, is it cool if I just refer to it as the movements dissad?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. So specifically, what movements are challenging U.S. imperialism in Latin America? Specifically through the notion of winsec.
What do you mean?
Okay, you read movements, that movements are succeeding. What movements are in the status quo succeeding now?
Well, I mean, my Idealer card in 2015 specifically talks about how they've been effectively pushing back. You also see
Sure,
Latin America
who? I
pushing
just
back.
want to know who.
Would you like an example of pushing it back against?
Yes.
Okay. So what we see right now is Bolivia's Evo Morales has actually created a school in order to counter the influence of winsec. So that's a very clear example of, one, movements working against winsec, but two, the lead card isn't that winsec itself is the problem. The problem is that your assumption is the only way for Latin America to push back against imperialism is that the United States has to take a step to end imperialism, and saying that Latin America is not capable of doing that.
Sure. Where do I make a framing that Latin America is not capable of it?
I'd say that framing is pretty clear at the point that you say the only way imperialism ends is if the United States takes an action.
Sure. Okay. Let's talk about form of rhetorical indigenizing, like the term and weight of what specifically out of the 1AC do I do that links into your K?
I specifically talk about how the term Latin America is a colonial term and it is based in imperialism, which is exactly what you are claiming to solve for. One, that's a direct turn to the case at the point that I'm saying that that is what that term is based in.
So where in the 1AC do I say the term Latin?
You literally say it in plain text. And you say it in the app. Like, there are a multitude of times that you say the term Latin America.
Okay. And so how does why does performing a literary analysis in this space solve? Like, why is endorsing that? Like, what does that actually
So
do?
the reason that I say a literary analysis of the term Latin America is important is because most of us don't recognize that issue, and that's the problem. Like, the reason that literary analysis is important is because literary analysis is what shapes our thinking of words.
Sure, so
there
like
are
what-
certain words that we deem inappropriate,
So
but
like
for
what
some
does
reason
the
words based in imperialism
So what
and
does me
colonialism
walking
don't
outside
matter.
this what does me walking outside this room and doing the alt look like?
It looks like having that type of discussion with people. It looks like being able to introduce studies of literature based on those types of issues.
Okay. Interesting. Alright, gonna take some prep. Starting prep. Stop prep with 143 left. The order is going to be T, K, Disad. I'll say this to leave it off right.
You said TK Disa?
Mm-hmm.
send it in the email chain.
No, I sent it separately because I wanted to make sure you got the correct document.
Ah, that's fair.
Yeah. Just didn't want any
I was so
confusion.
confused. If like I was like, wait.
Yeah, I didn't want two docs with the same name in there, so. Alright. Are you good?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. First one is going to be the anime specifically. I did in Latin America that all I need to be in NFL results specifically indicate how topical I need to be deciding to be so for top probably to wait on this, but additionally counter in terms of that role means influence with Million Dictionary 16D influence with something or something in particular situation. Tuesday, I mean to counter if you look at the resolution's entire context, I just have to reduce the role of some command in Latin America. Role means influence. So since Winsec influence in Latin America topical. Now three other reasons for A is the reasonability of such a rule. If the affirmative is making a reasonable interpretation of the topic, making a reasonable attempt to limit the role of some command in Latin America, you don't vote me down this. But answers predictability arguments of the restriction of string Latin American militaries, additionally predictability changes round depending on the element out. But reasonability stays stable, always prefer reasonability. My interpretation is based on the entire resolution, not just a single word. B is predictability. The alpha is not predictable. Since it's been a highly publicized struggle for the last 15 years, I'm using dictionary definition for my interpretation. I try to give the next most ground I can by utilizing common information. Predictability about standards and no idea how to judge what a debate I may have never met before is going to predict about the topic. Predictability super subjective. Prefer reasonability. C limits counter provides best limits for topic by taking a more holistic view of how single command operates in Latin America. Heated topics specific education we avoid overlooking topic is when actually growth the intersectional issues of the topic. D is going to be extra topicalities and uniquely good. It creates a better, more holistic form of education because it actually allows us to take a holistic approach to how we actually need to solve things rather than artificially restricting ourselves into one particular box. It allows us to have more creative solutions and more effective solutions, makes us better policymakers and leads to better education. It's probably going to be a straight turn to their education standard, but on the voters' turn is the education my opponent prescribes to me that extending colonialism, focusing on the policy of the firm is key to create a better form of education that critically questions imperialism. If I win, then I create better education. I win the teen, I win the debate, Mayo in 14. Education serves me in colonies, mental universe, make it be water and education with the colonies, the illusion of the education, we don't poverty, education metropolis. It also enforces the view of the good life for which one ought to aspire to the colonial center. Next is fairness not voting ensures just internally to education. Turn the top counts the other instances of imperialism, dictating what is fair like we use imperialism instead of democratic elections. Latin American countries don't with the governments, but not favorable to use interest. Human serves the problem, different imperialist interest. The affirmative is key to deconstructing the system. In terms of fairness, impact the two procedural precludes discussion and fairness of the system. Next is NFL viewers will tell me how to vote me, don't tell you how to punish me. If I'm not topical, means that you don't vote me down. But additionally, I would like to say specifically, like she straight links, the T straight links into critique means the next thing you need to apply that you should reject them outright. Particularly the NFLD rules that they hold so highly indicate that the next should not do like logically inconsistent positions that you should, as a judge, should reject that. That's specifically in the rules. Like she straight violates that to the point at which she runs a topicality that would link to the critique because she literally defines Latin America in the T. Like literally, this is just like really bad strategy. You should probably reject it for that. The impact is going to be the K. Let's go to the K. On the alt. One is permutation, one do, but the affirmative, the demonstration of policy proposal can come from a critical perspective, extend gross from material which provides solvency. They say that individuals use think create change of inequality, prevent practice from occurring. Perm 2 is do the plan, do the alt, never ends. It's direct and indicted solvency. Alt perm proves the alt should be strong enough to overcome the plan. Perm 3, do the plan and then do the alt. Net benefit of the perm is avoiding the two just as epistemological critique established by the athletes, even if they when they have a chance of solvency, the perm resolves it and still garners after solvency. Meaning you vote after perm 4, do the plan, we're writing your endorsement of the alt on the ballot. The perm is a triple by the perm, the pillars the ballot doesn't matter. They just want to indicate to win the round. Separate off those arguments make their impacts and both less turn the K. Or B proves that they're simply embracing the alt does not solve their impacts, can overcome the aspects of capitalism, more entrenched the plan. Proves that the K doesn't solve the case by requiring the perm to actually solve. Perm 5 is do the plan and then the alt. Perm 6 is do the alt and then do the plan. Both these perms prove the alt can overcome. Perm 7 is do the after the epistemological rejection of imperialism and coloniality. 8 is net benefit the permutation. Cook evidence indicates what happens to be for row state. The action is the left believes politics, the hopes of revolution system becomes filled with extremists who pass racist, classist, and critique of policies culminating in extinction. 9 is that the critique does not engage in like Cuomo Evans. It says we have an ethical obligation to reject imperialism and focus on structural violence. The imperial structure assumes their positions infiltrate all parts of life. 10 is that this disastrous form of politics implicated in the Mohanty evidence indicates that imperialism renders entire populations as a stand reserves capable of being sacrificed in the quest for profit. This motive will sees people as ways to expand imperialism, which is responsible for the every atrocity of the last 100 years. 11, the micropolitical emphasis behind the alt legitimizes the continued atomization of populations to manner that allows imperialism to divide and conquer. This approach to radical critique provides a service for the ruling class, the oppressive root cause of capitalism disguised because we think everything will be sweet when different forms of subjectivity are acknowledged. 12 is turn. Rejecting policy implementation makes poor curriculum and turns their critique, their critical arguments. Reason for the right to sentence the mainstream with left focus on theory instead of action, viable, pragmatic political actions. The only way to implement otherwise self-influential contradictory word of critical theory. This also proves the solution to the right is university students like this, so uniqueness trend they reserve Gitland 6. The right has been in a position to make Brian's law line with the left topic is logical query, but isn't to oppose then policies to further fair generalization left. Expertise being constricted to scope the academic left particulars nourish what they call to come to theory. The theory is chiefly about stuff theory lays come to objective truth and fact criterion, which is a 6 with the status was aesthetic, not empirical. Next, impacts. They'll say conventional politics battle links to 1 and CK. That's fine every time they say neg weeks. We're saying yes and neg impact terms. Here are our impacts. Anti-politics students, their project that is applying to politics to the right is culminating in extinction, small 6. Challenges require collective action to confront and warming supervisors. Corporations require cooperation. We no longer suffer through the tiny lens of our existing individual and back us into the corner. Cut the card here. This position has three implications. One, to decide the one sees emphasis on critical theory and the strategy for advanced political change. Two, to solve and take out those systems that critique remain unchanged to approach curriculum willing power of the right. Next is I'm not going to read that next card. Go to the disstat. First is going to be fundamentally that you need to look at cross-apply my Solo Watch evidence specifically that indicates that Solo Watch is a movement that is fighting against this, and they want congressional action to occur. Literally, that's my inherency argument that the movement wants. That probably means that I'm the terminal action of the movement, probably. But additionally, she can't give you any specificity of what sort of movement would be there. But additionally, extend across the Cuomo evidence. It's a critique of this realism of the one and see particularly that in this crisis-based politics that allows individuals who are shaped by privilege to be able to reject everyday instances of violent action to be able to engage in this. But additionally, I would say, link term, we are the terminal aspect of the movement. That's literally what the Kuriyama evidence says. She never responds to that. Probably means that the Kuriyama Cook evidence literally straight turns and provides a better net benefit to engaging in the state. Also, my argument has never been that they can't do it on their own, but simply that the U.S. needs to recognize that's the Royo 6 evidence. It literally doesn't say that these individuals are incapable of overthrowing U.S. imperialism. It simply says that we have to engage in it. Go to the case. You can cross-apply my Cook, Kuriyama, and Grossberg evidence to cross-apply this turn and pull across all the turns I make on the critique, but additionally on the no solvency. She looked literally like a random congressman is probably better than just some analytics from a college beta. Probably means you're never going to be able to pull this across, means that you can still vote for the Afghan solvency. So the only card I didn't read was I didn't read any of the cards on the disstat.
You didn't read any of the cards on the disstat?
No.
Okay,
No.
give me 1 second to make sure I...
Sure. And then I don't read subpoint 15 on the critique.
Hold 1 second. Okay. You don't read subpoint 15.
Yeah.
Did you read everything else on the game?
Yeah, I cut the card in certain places. Do you want me to tell you specifically where? On each card?
No.
Okay.
I don't think you said you didn't read any of the cards on the disstat.
Yeah, no cards on the dissat.
No.
Just cross applications of other pieces of evidence.
Okay. Cool. Give me 1 second, and I'm going to start right. If I can figure out how to make the turn work. Okay. Cool. Starting off on topicality, he says that you need to reject this because of the rules and that it's going to be a double turn to the critique. But one, rules are going to be a system of colonialism. The entire reason that we are going through this type of rhetorical analysis is because of the way Western epistemology and Western knowledge has functioned. So we're one, going to reject the rules, but two, kick it. There's no real offense and there's no reason that he gives you to articulate as to why it's going to be a reason for you to vote me down outside of the fact that it's for rules, and that's not going to be a good enough reason for us today. But furthermore, you never tell me that multiple worlds is bad, and that means that one, I'm allowed to operate within multiple worlds, but two, kicking is going to solve for that. Again, there's no real offense on that, so that's not going to matter, but you can pull across as I need because I'm not going 13. On the disadvantage, you can also pull across the fact that one, it's not going to be unique disadvantage, but furthermore that he's going to be able to kind of work with, actually, no. Pull across the non-unique on the disadvantage, but furthermore, we're going to keep the link card from Emerson and 10. There's no real offense that I found in the graph on that. On the kick. Overview on the link. Projection. Extend Sean 6. So what he sees bold claim to the term Latin America as defined by them is a mode of political domination, asserting it as the truth of colonial experience. This assertion of superior Western knowledge describes the reality of imperialism that it claims to describe. This paints the region as a static environment to be managed through a Eurocentric mode of governance and elite policy discussion. And Extend Sean 61, it sees descriptors of Latin American excrescence to a colonial logic rooted in essentializing and otherizing ethnic identity. Coloniality justifies U.S. hegemony in the region by drawing a developed, undeveloped binary coded as differences between continents by associating race with place. This confers authority to Western manipulation of knowledge and politics. You can also extend the Emerson and 10 card, which specifically talks about how viewing the primary agent and change in Latin America is problematic. He says that that's not what he's going to be doing out of the affirmative case. But if you're saying the only way that Latin America can overcome imperialism by the United States is to have United States action, that is going to functionally be very problematic. He's saying that he's able to solve for all of imperialism in Latin America by simply changing one minute policy, and that's simply not going to be the case. But that's a very clear link into the critique. But furthermore, St. John 6, the one he sees framing of Latin America concedes to a framework of economic hegemony. Understanding Latin America through contemporary political lenses is rooted in defining the region by its economic capital, changing the pretext of engagement. Military presence is supplanted by more insidious forms of resource extraction and labor exploitation. And the perm fails. The rhetoric of Latin America is inseparable from the genocide and slavery that built the colonial world. Their representations provide the means for colonial power to mask itself in the material consequences of the plan. We know in 2006, to execute the coloniality, one must always analyze the project of modernity. The modern world order has emerged in the 500 years since the discovery of America to indicate coloniality is the constitutive of modernity and cannot exist within it. The idea of Latin America cannot be dealt with in isolation without producing turmoil. It cannot be separated from the ideas of the U.S. that dominate. Genocide and slaves are the very foundation of modernity. They constitute the darker and hidden face of coloniality. To excavate the idea of Latin America is to understand how the West was born and how the modern world order was founded. So one, that means that all of those perms are not going to work. You cannot separate the two. That's going to be separate. And on the perm one, you can't do both. Assuming that the U.S. is primary actor is equally as colonialist. This is seen from the Emerson 10 card. Number 2 on the disadvantage, and 2, this is on the second perm. This is just dumb. Like, I shouldn't have to endorse something like colonialism and you still replicate my impacts, which means that those impacts are going to be net worse. We're not ever going to be able to create the same types of impacts that we would be able to with the alternative if you're going to still pass plan. And perm 3 is literally severance. But furthermore, perm 5, this is again severance. The majority of these perms are severance, and he says perm 7 do the app. It doesn't reject imperialism at that point. That's pretty clear coming out of the critique that this is going to be a major method of imperialism in Latin America because we're using our knowledge to dominate that region. Onto framework. The affirmative tinkering of policymaking is insufficient to solve for imperialism. The normative assumptions and stock issue paradigm will always detract from the skills and agents that do not fit inside hegemonic rationalities. Walsh in 2012. The problem in Latin America as such is not lie in simply opening, rethinking, or reconstructing the social sciences as some studies have suggested, but better yet by questioning their very basis to review the suppositions that place the production of knowledge only in academia between academics and with the scientifically established paradigms and canons. It is also to refute the concepts of expert knowledge that work to negate and detract from practices, skills, and agents that do not fit inside the hegemonic and dominant rationality. And the debate space is key. Policy is going to be bad. Academic communities' construction of decolonial to utopian alternatives is essential to transform the world system and socialize power. Gospel in 2011. Community schools would be self-managed by people under the goal of expanding social equality and democracy to all spaces of social existence, empowerment, and racial democratization form below. The socialization of power would also imply the formation of global institutions beyond national or state boundaries to guarantee social equality based on indigenous communities and the new urban marginal communities. The utopia beyond the Eurocentric notions of private and public policy changes at the level of the nation state are obsolete. The system of domination and exploitation cannot have a national solution. Furthermore, what we're really going to see coming out of the AC is that it's going to be a major way for the United States to further implement imperialism. At the point that you're saying you're solving for U.S. imperialism, that means Latin American nations are going to think that we're actually making a clear move to not do that, and that's not going to be true. And the colonial weight of the term Latin America in discourse matters. Their representations of Latin America as topographically distinct and culturally homogeneous confers authority to slanted and reductionist Western ways of knowing that in turn legitimize interventions, and literary analysis overview on the alternative. Extent E can inform, vote negative to endorse a literary analysis of Latin America. 1. First, it solves the often tales rejecting traditional and regional literature that draws the geographic understanding of the region in favor of cross-cultural, social, and historical scholarship which understands the region as a complex and continually evolving place. And 2. Second, it's mutually exclusive. Literary analysis of Latin America is advocated, competes internally, and it's going to be ideological competition. Endorsing a policy backed by traditional scholarship is not academically compatible. The alternative calls for a reformulation of scholarship at the epistemological level, and B, textual competition. The text of the app and the old are at polar opposites. Endorsing social and historical epistemologies means rejecting traditional scholarship like the affirmative and redefining Latin America. And furthermore, this round should be a question of the best method to challenge coloniality and imperialism because it's the root cause, challenge coloniality because it is the root cause of imperialism. Both the app and neg advocacy both claim imperialism as being the terminal and impact, so a comparison of net benefits is only logical and conclusion, only logical conclusion, and colonialism is a project of the logic of domination, same with imperialism.
Take my 104.
T in case?
Or no, T and K. T and K.
I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your
Okay.
T in case.
Been a long day. Sorry. K and case, they all start with the same sound. All right. Is everybody ready? She fundamentally mishandles the way that I put offense on the top couch. I make one argument, specifically the rules. That's fine, you can reject the rules. But my analysis is definitely that you can cross-apply literally what she reads on her link level, that the rhetoric of Latin America is inseparable. If she's going to go for the link that it's inseparable, that means she cannot sever out of her own language of Latin America in a T, which means if she links within the only risk of solving for the harms of colonial is the 1AC, which means voting out. But additionally, she does not answer the way that I frame the offense on the bottom of the key, particularly indicating that her topicality is a method of silencing the conversation around coloniality and inscribes a colonialist education. That's the male 14 evidence that goes cold conceded. She also drops the point that I make where I read to a decision rule that says if I win better education, I win a T, and I win the debate at the point at which she cold concedes that means that you're going to have an easy ballot for the affirmative. But additionally, on her argumentation, this is going to straight turn the K and the T. 1. The negatives performative conditionality and kicking their topicality inscribes colonialist education within this round that creates a justification for the ongoing genocide of Native Americans. 5th and 12. The logical genocide of both indigenous peoples must disappear. Recommends spears disappear in order to enable the non-indigenous person life. Okay, Milan. Through this logical genocide, non-indigenous becomes the rightful intention of all indigenous land, indigenous spirituality, cultural genocide, or serves the anchors, colonialism laws. Non-native peoples feel they can rightly own indigenous person land. It's acceptable to possess land and the home indigenous persons because indigenous people have disappeared. But 2. This is a priority independent voter for the affirmative, the education of the creed through the performance of the terminal impact of the RAM. You must vote on the performative contradiction before anything else. Peterson 14. The goal was to intervene in the production of knowledge. If you regulate these things, abstract things, people just compartmentalize it, won't actually affect them. We wanted to affect people, they would actually have to think. We wanted to agitate, we wanted to make people feel uncomfortable. The emphasis was never an individual that goes to eliminate larger structures for domination, but we wanted people to connect these larger structures to behaviors and things that are going on in their daily lives. Go to the K. First, I want you to cross-apply her own analysis specifically that indicates that the rhetoric is inseparable, probably means that she can not sever out of it. But additionally, perms are only a test of the competition of the alternative, means that the severance is never going to be off, and she also never specifies why you should vote on severance, which probably means you're not going to be able to buy that. But additionally, she just fundamentally mishandles the arguments that I read out of the 1AR. Particularly, I want you to pull across the analysis that I make in the Gillen 6 evidence that literally that projecting policy implementation makes poor curriculum and turns their argument. Particularly, she doesn't answer my uniqueness claim that specifically indicates that the solution to the ascendance of the right is university students like us engaging in policy debate. That means I'm going to be able to control the uniqueness of actually solving for the educational questioning of aspects like coloniality in this room when she concedes the Gillen 6 evidence. But additionally, she doesn't respond to my argument, particularly the subpoint 13, where I literally indicate that sure, like every time that she wants to say conventional politics is bad, that's fine. I'm straight impact serving that, particularly in the small 6 evidence that literally indicates that anti-politics dooms their project, threatens the planet, sees politics light, and culminates in extinction. Means her methodology literally justifies and creates the pathway to extinction. That's going to be enough of an offense to vote against the critique. But additionally, she also drops the argument that it's a disadvantage to the one that sees emphasis on critical theory and the strategy for advanced political change, the point in which is conceded offense, you vote F.